What would you do about Brighton Hove Albion's attack their number 10 position, and specifically Matt O'Reilly? Welcome back to Seagulls Central. My name is Adam MacDonald and this is my channel, the fastest growing Brighton Hove Albion fan community on YouTube. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here and you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button. We're growing fast, and this season we're all about making content on repeat as often as we can, every couple of days, reacting to all the biggest news, the transfer lines, the stories within the club, and opening up a discussion. And today I want to talk about Matt O'Reilly and kind of how you feel about him, how I feel about him, whether my views are maybe in the minority. I kind of suspect my views are in the minority a little bit from all of the kind of conversations I've seen, particularly online, to be fair, with people in real life, with my friends, with my family, with the people I sit near at the ground. I feel like I kind of share a view with other people, but I am seeing a lot of kind of differing opinions on Matt O'Reilly out there on social media. So I want to get into it. I want to dig into his kind of future with only a couple of weeks left of the transfer window, and how Brighton kind of will line up best in attack going forward, and whether this guy is the kind of main man for us in the number 10 role going forward. So yeah, I'm just going to get straight into it. So my view on Matt O'Reilly is this. I was absolutely delighted when he signed for the club. I thought it was a brilliant signing at 25 million quid. It felt like a kind of very safe bet, you know. Yes, okay, historically big money for Brighton, but given our transfers, it's around a kind of a standard market price that Brighton would play for a decent player nowadays. Coming from a club with great pedigree, playing at a decent level in terms of having a bit of European experience, and obviously, you know, the Scottish League isn't brilliant, but you see the kinds of players there. I know Celtic fans who speak about this guy like he was, like, you know, the second coming of Jesus, and I think it is interesting the way that particularly Celtic fans and Rangers fans kind of idolise certain players, and I think the level is maybe kind of not taken into account as much, you know, expecting an onslaught for that statement. But, you know, a good player, very solid player, and a player who I felt, you know, that at signing him at kind of 24 years old was a very decent signing. As a player who naturally in the next few years would improve, and I think also it makes sense. We might bring him in, we might play him for a couple of years, we might be able to sell him, okay, maybe not for a double or triple, but we might be able to sell him for 35, 40 million quid, and then you've kind of made decent money again. It's profit. You've had a few good few couple of years from this player. There was a lot of talk as well, because it was the summer that Pascal Gross left, that actually this guy was maybe a bit of a Gross replacement. He was a chance-creating machine. He was someone who could play at 10, he can play at an 8, he can play across, you know, he's also played at the wing for Brighton as well. He can play in versatile positions. So I like the signing, and don't get me wrong, I like the player. I do like the player. However, here's my gripe. I'm just not sure. I kind of get the hype around why he should be starting at number 10 for Brighton going into the season. Now, I will hold my hands up and kind of, you know, defer myself to the greater knowledge of Fabian Hürzeler, and whatever he will pick will be the team that is obviously best, you know, to play in the Premier League. However, I think he played well. I think against Fulham he played okay. I think he obviously got that penalty. I think from set pieces he looks like a threat. Play cross the ball in brilliantly, can put the ball on a sixpence. We saw it with that cross into Mitoma from our right hand side with his left foot, where he crossed it to the back post. And Mitoma had a really good chance with a header. We obviously saw it with the penalty as well, where he put that away with aplomb. I think I think just watching him, and I said it in my last video or a couple of videos ago when I was reviewing the Fulham game, is I feel like he slows our play down quite a lot. I feel like he's a player who at this stage, and I'm not saying he's not capable of this, I feel like he's a player who's not massively comfortable with that really quick one-touch play, which so many of our attackers are great at. I think I'm seeing him a lot, and I did this demonstration in my last video, but I think often he'll receive the ball looking quite wooden and jagged, and he'll receive the ball big foot out to receive the ball. It might bounce off him a little bit. He then has to take another touch to control it, and then he passes it off. And I think often we're used in that 10 position to kind of seem like João Pedro there, Rutter there, you know, in recent seasons, players who are so brilliant at receiving the ball, receiving it on the turn, running at players, maybe, you know, creating little triangles with players. And I feel like Matt O'Reilly kind of doesn't really have that sharpness and quickness of his play to warrant playing at the number 10 for Brighton. I think against Fulham, he slowed a lot of our attacks down. I think he made up some of our attacks a little bit sloppy. I watched a kind of best of Matt O'Reilly that the club put out on Twitter. I'm sure you may have seen it too. A lot of the actions kind of were okay. Obviously, he had the penalty, he had the cross for Mitoma, which made a good chance, but a couple of them were like kind of crunching tackles, but they're crunching tackles that he had to make to win the ball back after he'd kind of, made a poor touch in receiving the ball, and then he was able to kind of like choppily kind of pass it on to someone else. And it all feels a little bit haphazard in terms of his play. It doesn't feel like really perfect, elegant build-up. And I think in terms of breaking down low blocks, something that Brighton struggled with a lot last season, I think they'll continue to struggle with this season, to be honest. I don't hugely see how he's a player who is going to help us in that respect. I think what you need in those situations, you need really fast, really intricate, precise play where you're cutting defences open. Pascal Gross was brilliant at that. He had the pass to unlock the key. And maybe Matt O'Reilly, with time and space, has that ability to unlock defences, maybe, but crucially, with time and space. And I think I saw in the Fulham game a player who maybe isn't comfortable with not having loads of time and loads of space. And I am prepared to say that absolutely this is something he will develop, he can develop. I'm sure he will get better at this. But I think at this stage, our best starting 11 doesn't look like him playing at the number 10. I think our best starting 11 looks like him on the bench, coming on for the last 30 minutes, the last 35 minutes, 20 minutes. I think Jorginho Rutter playing at the 10, we see the best of him there. Danny Welbeck, I think there's been so much conversation around Kostelat, Seamas, Matt O'Reilly this summer. For me, I'm sorry, I think Brighton look best when we've got Danny Welbeck up front. The goals he scored last season, the all-rounded play that he brings, the strength, the intelligence, the one-touch passing, the bringing others into play. I think there's no player in terms of our attackers that can do that. João Pedro was very good at that as well, but I think Danny Welbeck is unmatched in that respect. And this idea that I've seen a few people going, look, we'll play Matt O'Reilly and Rutter for now, and then we'll bring in Seamas and Kotsala. I'm sorry, Danny Welbeck has shown, we saw it against Fulham as well, his quality. Him and Rutter as a 9 and 10 are our best combination in a 9 and 10. And maybe this Matt O'Reilly thing is because, maybe it's due to also the fact that kind of Danny Welbeck hasn't been fit. I think he's played a good amount of pre-season. We saw him in the kind of secondary games against Wolfsburg, against Southampton. But there were reports kind of after the Fulham game, I think it was from Brian Owen, sort of saying in his match report that actually Danny Welbeck hadn't been 100% fit throughout pre-season. So that was maybe why he had a bit of a different role starting the season, kind of playing in the reduced pre-season games as well. So I'm kind of hoping that's the case in terms of, as opposed to kind of Fabian Hürzeler deciding that he wants to just play, he doesn't want to play Danny Welbeck up front anymore. He wants to play Jorginho Rutter as our number 9. I think that's a bad move. I think going forward, that is our best combination. And look, I think as well with Matt O'Reilly, obviously there's been so much conversation around his future, around where he's going to go. Is he going to go somewhere? Lots of interest from Syria, Roma liking to look at him. Juve wanting to have a look at him as well. There's been a few, I think Napoli at one stage were interested. And I guess the thing, and I don't want this to sound like I'm kind of slagging the bloke off. I'm more talking in this video around how I don't think he's right for our number 10 role at this moment. And I think within that context, I've seen a lot of talk online when the stories come out around Matt O'Reilly, is people tweeting, people making videos. We can't sell Matt O'Reilly. Don't sell Matt O'Reilly. We've got to keep Matt O'Reilly. As a real point that they're making. And they're making it a real point of purpose in terms of what they're trying to get across some fans. And I don't really get that. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't think he can be great. I'm not saying I don't think he could be a good asset in our squad, a good option for different games. He can improve. Absolutely. He can score goals. He can score penalties. He can score set pieces. He can, link play quite nicely, I guess. But I don't think he's one of those players right now who's like absolutely under no circumstances can we sell this guy. And that's the message I get from a lot of fans. And I'll be honest, I don't get it. Look, I would be disappointed inherently, within me, I would be disappointed. if Brighton accepted an offer from Juventus, 25-30 million quid, and after a year we've not seen the best of him, we've made a bit of money back, fair enough. I don't really care about the money, it's not my money. But, I would have felt a bit disappointed because we've not really seen much of him. We've seen a kind of half season from him in a couple of games at the start of this season. So that's the reason I wouldn't want to sell him. But if it happened, I don't think I'd really care. I've not seen, there's some players where you kind of see signs from them and you think, this guy's going to be proper. But, he's not had the run of games. He's been lucky with injury. I'm kind of get to see that. And I don't know if I'm being harsh. And I suspect a lot of people might disagree with me. So I am ready for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think, there's certain players you see and you kind of think, yeah, this guy's got flashes. Buonanotte, Grudi, you can see it. I see it less with Matt O'Reilly. The only thing I will say is, look, we've not seen much of him, have we? We've seen half-ish of a season of him. Or even in that half a season, he wasn't kind of playing every game, every minute of every game. We've seen him feature in pre-season where he supposedly had a brilliant pre-season. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on the guy, but I didn't really understand what this kind of amazing pre-season was that we saw from him. He seems like a lovely bloke. He seems like a really nice guy. And his interviews after the match, I remember against City, I think we heard him speak as well after Fulham. Seems like a lovely chap and a very, very good footballer, clearly. But I think in terms of this Brighton squad, I don't really know how his position makes sense right now. I feel like I'm not really getting it. I feel like it's a position which seems to be untouchable at the moment from Fabian Hürzeler. I'm not sure I'm quite on the same page as him. And I'd love to know what you think. I don't know. Do you think that actually he's a player who has shown that he's got what it takes right now? Enough to start every game, enough to keep Danny Welbeck out of the side, enough to maybe compromise our best attack. Do you think he's good enough? Do you think he deserves a run on the team? So some of the conversations I've had with friends and family, people have said to me, well, he needs a run, doesn't he? He needs to have a run again. He needs to get that momentum, and absolutely does. I just don't know if it's at the expense of kind of our best attacking combination. That would be my only kind of query around that. I don't know. I think you can give people a run of games maybe off the bench. You can guarantee him 30 minutes every game off the bench. Every game will bring you on in the 10. We'll replace you with Welbeck. We'll move Rutter to the number 9. We'll do that for the last 30 minutes of every game. I don't know. I just don't think we've seen enough. I don't know if I'm being harsh. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. Will he start against Everton on Sunday, at Hill Dickinson? Will he be a part of our team even beyond the summer transfer window? Will we see him at the club on September the 2nd? Will he be in a Brighton shirt? Is he in Brighton's best 11? Are you seeing something that I'm completely not? How am I going wrong? What am I not understanding? I'd really love to know. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back in a couple of days for the next conversation around Brighton and Hove Albion. Whether there'll be a bit of transfer news dropping, whether we've got another conversation ahead of Everton to get into. I will see you there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, up the Albion.